Time for the Saturday headlines with Elliotte Friedman. Here's one for you, Elliotte. Cole Caulfield, first Canadians Hattie in Boston since Mark Recchi in 1997. So every intermission we have a Montreal Canadian who ought to be on Team USA for Bill Guerin.
Caulfield and Robertson, man, they are making it hard. Like every day, it looks wilder and wilder that one of the two of them isn't there.
What was Kyle Bukauskas' theory?
Overtime. The overtime in the gold medal game is 3-on-3. And who would you rather have there than Cole Caulfield? Kyle actually is now hoping that the USA makes the gold medal game and it goes to overtime so he can make this point.
As David Amber is hoping Florida misses the playoffs.
That's right.
Kind of been a running
you
bit.
know what? You finally gave it up. I've never mentioned his name.
Oh, he did.
Oh, he did?
He did it on the show on whatever night. He was on all week. But
yeah, I don't watch when Dave's on.
He mentioned, yes, that's right. Let's talk headlines. And the New York Rangers, starting with Artemi Panarin.
Yeah, so he's obviously the name that everybody's kind of focused on right now. And if you'll remember last year, Brock Nelson was traded from the Islanders to Colorado, and the trade was for Cal Ritchie, a first-rounder, and a conditional third. There were other players involved, but those were the key pieces. And it sounds like that's where the Rangers' starting point is with Panarin right now. Now, part of this is also, will he be willing to sign an extension? Are there places? He has a no-move clause, so he controls where he goes, but I think some of the teams are wondering, could there be an extension as part of this? Now, I think some of the teams are looking around. Anaheim, Panarin has a history with Joel Quenneville. I think LA has some decisions to make about their overall situation, where they are right now and where they truly are as a franchise and what an extension would look like. I think Washington with an extension, and I think there's a bunch of other teams. I'm always conceding, Ron, I'm missing teams that are in on this, but I think that's kind of where the market starts, the trade talk starts, and some of the teams are trying to figure out what Panarin is willing to do.
How can LA know? They're 2 points out, right?
Yeah, but I think you also sometimes have to be honest about where you are and where you're going. And I think LA this year, they're kind of looking at where are we and where are we going.
Just before we move on to Dougie Hamilton, Alexis Lafreniere. First of all, Jeff Gordon picked him. So everybody thinks, boy, it'd be ideal to see him go to Montreal. Shane Wright, supposedly you said, is in play on the podcast.
You know, I think Lafreniere, they would talk about him, but I think... You know, one of the things that happens, Ron, is that people can look at it and say, well, this is where Lafreniere is here today, but he's still a number 1 overall pick not too long ago. And teams will always look at that. They'll always say, look, if we're going to move that player, we're moving him with that designation. So it's a challenge. Like, who's willing to look at it that way?
Dougie Hamilton.
Yeah, so Dougie Hamilton, last couple of weeks, it's been a big name we've all been talking about. Luke Hughes was hurt, and he's going to be out. He's trying to come back without having surgery. So he's going to be out for a little bit, and what that has done is brought the Dougie Hamilton Derby to a crawl or a standstill. Now, I don't think it's impossible. I think if someone came to the Devils with something they had to say no to, or they couldn't say no to, they would do it. But at least for the time being, the Devils need him. He's played very well, so it slowed this down.
So you're really tracking Calgary. Obviously, St. Louis, Robert Thomas, Justin Falk, Jordan Kyrou. These are big names.
Yeah, so there's just a few other situations we're looking at. People are always wondering about Calgary. They made the Rasmus Andersson deal. Is there more coming? As far as I can tell right now, it's slow around the Flames, not for lack of interest to do things. I just think that Anderson was the big one they had to do, and things have just quieted down for a little bit. You mentioned the St. Louis one. St. Louis is definitely, and everybody talks about who's talking. The Blues are a team, but the prices are huge for those guys, all that you've mentioned. That, you know, you look at what Anderson just got traded for, and I think the Blues are kind of looking at something like that with Falk, who's an older player with a bit of term. So it's tough to make a deal with them, even though they are willing. I think one of the things that's going on right now, it's kind of funny, is that some teams want to make trades before the Olympic break, but there's other teams that are saying, why would I want to pay a guy a few $100,000 to lie on a beach? I'd rather make the trade after the Olympic break. So there's some of that going around, too.
That's good.
Yeah.
The embargo, what are the dates?
4th to 22nd.
All right. Elliotte Friedman.
Oh, wait a sec. Hold on. I want to do the Stolarz.
Oh, good.
Yes. So there was a bit of confusion at the end of with the Leafs the other night. Stolarz came back. He played his first game against Vegas. And today, Craig Berube was asked about it, and he said, not my call. So I kind of wanted to figure out what was going on here. And basically, what I was told is that when Anthony Stolarz went on his conditioning stint, the agreement was made that when he returned, it would be with the NHL team. That was the preference, and everybody agreed to this. And there was some talk, does anyone want to change their mind? The answer was no, and they waited a few extra days to give him extra practice, make sure he was ready. And then, you look at the schedule, Ron, it was Vegas last night, it was Colorado at 1:30 in the afternoon on Sunday, and it's red-hot Buffalo on Tuesday. It's not like there was an easy one. So when he was ready and everybody agreed that he was returning to the NHL, that was the way they went.
Still at 1,312 games. That's a doozy to put him in there. Thank you. That is Elliotte Friedman and the Saturday headlines. We'll check in with the panel next and coverage of our games on Hockey Night in Canada after this.